Donkey Kong Bananza recently released and was by far the best platformer I've played since Odyssey all the way back in 2017. It got me thinking about all the incredible games in the Mario series and how great the next 3D Mario will be as it takes advantage of the Switch 2's hardware. For now, I want to rank every mainline Mario game from worst to best. If you want to get right into the ranking and skip the explanation for how I'm ranking this, just go to this timestamp on screen. I will only be ranking the main series games, so no Mario Party, Mario Kart, Mario RPGs, etc. I'm just ranking the Super Mario platformers, and I won't be including remakes or remasters like the Super Mario Advance series or Super Mario 64 DS. I won't be including games that don't star Mario like Yoshi's Island or New Super Luigi U. I won't be including the Mario Maker games due to them being sandbox games where your fun comes from the levels you choose to play or create and not from playing through a curated adventure. Lastly, this is just my personal opinion and is by no means objective. You can disagree and that's totally fine. I'm just going off how much I personally enjoyed each game. Number 21, Super Mario Run. For a mobile game, this is pretty fun, but the key phrase there is for a mobile game. It's just so limited, and all you really do is tap the screen to make Mario jump. It's just so less interactive compared to every other mainline Mario game, and it's a fun time waster for a little bit, but it doesn't offer much beyond that. Given that it's a mobile game, it's understandable that it doesn't have the depth of the console titles, but I just found it enjoyable for maybe like 30 minutes at most before it started to feel repetitive and boring. Still, for this being the worst game and it not even being a bad game, that's a pretty good sign for the rest of this list. Number 20, Super Mario Land. The first handheld entry in the main series, Super Mario Land is a fun game, but it's aged arguably worse than even the original Super Mario Bros. It was an early Game Boy title and is fairly limited in scope. The platforming doesn't feel as solid as in other entries, which really affects the overall gameplay. That said, it's still creative, and there are a lot of new enemies and worlds to explore. However, when compared to the other games in the series, I just didn't enjoy it as much as the other ones on this list. This game is also well before my time, so I found it hard to actually get into this game. If I grew up with the Game Boy, maybe my opinion would be a bit different, but it is really rough to go back to. Number 19, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. The reason The Lost Levels is at 19 is because of how ridiculously hard it is. I enjoy a good challenge in Mario games, but this one really takes it too far. In fact, this was why we got a different version of Super Mario Bros. 2, because Nintendo believed the Lost Levels would be too difficult for American audiences. When you combine that with some of the elements that haven't aged well from the original game, it ends up lower on my list. I enjoy playing it every now and then, but the game's intense difficulty paired with the outdated physics from the first game can make it frustrating to play for extended periods. Number 18, Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins. I know a lot of people would rank this higher, and I totally get why, but for me, I just couldn't get into the Mario Land games as much as I did other Mario titles. 6 Golden Coins does address a lot of the issues from the first game, offering a more complex experience and much better visual presentation, like you could actually make out what this is. However, since the list is ranked based on how much I personally enjoyed this game, I just couldn't place it higher. It's a good game with some creative levels, but the Game Boy Mario titles haven't aged as well as others on the list, and that's not a knock on the developers because they were working with really limited hardware, and they really did as much as they could with the Game Boy for this, so I do applaud them for that. Number 17, New Super Mario Bros. 2. The first modern game on this list that's on a console, SNMB 2 isn't a bad game by any means, but I just really wasn't a huge fan of it. I already played through the prior 2 games in the series and enjoyed them a lot. This entry didn't bring much new to the table aside from an obsession with coins for some reason. After finishing it, the experience just didn't stick with me as much as its predecessors. I found the levels to be uncreative even by New Super Mario Bros. Standards, and the game felt just way too easy. Like if there was an extreme with Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, this was the extreme on the other difficulty. In 3D games, a slightly easier experience can be more forgivable depending on the level design, but in 2D when the game is both too easy and uncreative, it just really hampers the experience. I think if this game came out before the other New Super Mario Bros. Games, I'd look at it more favorably, but it just did nothing different except the coins. Like, yeah, I guess we got a new power-up, but again, it just ties into coins. It just makes you gold and just lets you shoot these gold fireball things. And then, while not the fault of this game, we got another New Super Mario Bros. Later that same year that was better than this. However, one thing I will say though is that the Impossible DLC pack was super fun. It's more challenging than much of the Lost Levels, but with better variety, improved controls, and a quicker pace, unlike the marathon that Lost Levels can feel like. I don't even think there's a way to play it anymore since the 3DS eShop shut down, but if you haven't, just watch gameplay of this, it's ridiculous. Number 16, Super Mario Bros. 2. Stylistically, Super Mario Bros. 2 is not a traditional Mario game, but it's still a very enjoyable one. It introduced recurring Mario characters like Birdo and Shy Guy and shook up the 2D platforming formula. There's more vertical levels, more variation from stage to stage, and 4 playable characters this time, each with different abilities. This game stands out in a series that often follows similar formulas, so it's nice to see something different. However, personally, I still prefer the more traditional formula of the first game, which is why I've ranked it just one spot higher. Number 15, Super Mario Bros. On some other lists, various factors might push this game higher, but when comparing my personal enjoyment of it to other titles, it drops to 15. Super Mario Bros. Released over a decade and a half before I was born, so I didn't get to experience it when it first came out. My first Mario games were on the DS and Wii, consoles with vastly superior hardware compared to the NES. While I still consider Super Mario Bros. To be a great game, I don't have the same nostalgia for it as others do. That said, we can't overlook how it laid the groundwork for an entire genre. The main factors holding it back are just the natural limitations of being such an early pioneer of 2D platforming. There's a clunkier physics, fewer features compared to later games, and a more basic design compared to its successors. It still is fun to play today though, because it is challenging, but it doesn't feel unfair at the same time, and many new 2D Mario games just feel too easy, so if you're looking for something that's a challenge, but not Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels challenging, this is still a great game to play. Number 14, New Super Mario Bros. U. This is still a really fun time, but I just couldn't find a higher spot for it. There are things I love about this game, like its beautifully designed world map, the visuals, and the power-ups, but the reason it's ranked lower than two other games in the New Super Mario Bros. Series is simply that I enjoyed those more. I thought Luigi U was the better game since it was tougher and more creative, but as for this one, it just feels like an easier version of New Super Mario Bros. Wii with a fresh coat of paint and doesn't bring many new concepts to the table. Like, yeah, I guess the squirrel power-up is cool, but is it really that much different? Does that justify having almost nothing new in this game? Like, when I played the Wii version, I couldn't put the controller down and finish it in one sitting. Like, I certainly enjoyed New Super Mario Bros. U, but it just felt like an easier version of the same game. Number 13, Super Mario 3D Land. 3D Land is basically a 3D version of New Super Mario Bros., and while that doesn't make it a bad game, it just doesn't feel as grand as the other 3D Mario games. Most levels are well designed, but only a handful stood out as truly memorable. The 3D gimmick was a neat idea, but in my opinion, and probably all of yours, it just didn't really add much to the gameplay outside of a few challenge rooms. I also found the soundtrack pretty underwhelming. It's good, but not really much stuck with me. It's also a lot of retro tracks and not too many new tracks. Most Mario games have incredible soundtracks with tons of memorable tunes, but 3D Land just doesn't stand out in that department. Super Mario 3D World wasn't out at this time. Super Mario Galaxy 2 released shortly before this. This kind of feels like if you mix those two games and then made it very simple. I still think every Mario fan should play this, but it's certainly by far the weakest in the 3D Mario game series. Something cool though is that after you beat the game, you can play as it again and get double the content with Luigi, and that was just a really nice feature to give you more to play. Number 12, New Super Mario Bros. DS. This game, along with the next, is pretty interchangeable in my ranking. They're just that close. I've gone back and forth on these, but I think New Super Mario Bros. DS here is the right choice. It was one of the first games I ever played back in like 2006, 2007 along Mario 64 DS. I have an immense amount of nostalgia for it, but I just couldn't rank it higher. This was the first 2D Mario game in over a decade and introduced a lot of series mainstays like the Mega Mushroom, Poison Jungles, new enemies, and a revamped Toadhouse system. Despite the DS's limitations, Nintendo did an amazing job with this game. It's a really solid return to 2D Mario. And then the soundtrack, this is when these songs were new and not reused in every new Super Mario Bros. Game. There's just something about the DS sound card that just can't be replicated on other hardware. Like, I remember I had a toothbrush that played, I think, the Athletic theme. It just gives me so much nostalgia to listen to. It also feels a lot different than the other new Super Mario Bros. Games just because it feels like they tried to do different things here. Like, they tried to be a little more creative and not be as bland as some of the future new Super Mario Bros. Games. Like, even new Super Mario Bros. Wii, I think, doesn't have as many unique things as this game. If I had a big criticism, it's that many of the levels still are kind of simple, even if they are pretty creative for this series. However, there are plenty of levels that are still really well designed and really complex, like the final castle standing out as a lot more intricate. And number 11, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. This barely edges out its DS counterpart, mainly due to a few key factors. Just some more well-designed levels, new power-ups like the Ice Flower, Penguin Suit, and Propeller Mushroom, which is one of my personal favorites, and the multiplayer experience, which is pretty much the reason why. Other new Super Mario Bros. Games I played maybe once or twice. I don't even know how many times I've played this, how many times I've went to a friend's house and played this. It's just so fun playing this game with friends, trying to mess with them as you throw them, trying to do tricks. Not only that, the final battle in this game is just one of the best in the entire Mario series, and it's just so crazy, and it really makes you feel stressed. And number 10, Bowser's Fury. I'm not even sure if this is technically a mainline Mario game, but I wanted to include it anyway. Packaged with Super Mario 3D World on the Switch, many probably expected it to be just like a side mode, but it's actually its own full-fledged game. Well, kind of. One of the biggest drawbacks and the reason it's not ranked higher is it's just a really short game. I did enjoy almost every second of it, but Bowser's Fury gives us the closest thing to an open-world Mario game. And while we've had Odyssey, Sunshine, and 64, which feature large open areas, they're all divided into distinct levels. In contrast, Bowser's Fury takes place on a connected map, offering a more continuous experience. It might not be the most traditional Mario world you'd expect, but Nintendo clearly put a lot of care into this design on the different islands. Beyond the game's length, my biggest complaint is that many of the catshines feel repetitive, but to be fair, there's a lot to collect in a relatively short journey. I feel like this game was more of a test to see how Nintendo would make a 3D Mario game in an open world, and who knows, maybe they're working on that for the Switch 2 right now. Number 9, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. The most recent game on this list, Super Mario Wonder marks the first non-New Super Mario Bros. 2D Mario platformer since Super Mario Land 2 in 1992. That's a crazy amount of time. I love the first 2 New Super Mario Bros. Games, and the next 2 were alright, but as I mentioned earlier, they just became too stale. It felt like every game was the same with a new coat of paint, but Mario Wonder feels completely different. It's a brand new art style, fresh power-ups, a badge system that adds another layer to the gameplay. It feels like a brand new adventure. One of my biggest complaints with the new Super Mario Bros. Games was that every single level had the same worlds, grasslands, desert, tundra, beach, and so on. And while Wonder shares many of these themes, it doesn't feel repetitive. The designs are completely new and the level layouts are much more creative. It's like going from Sticker Star to the original Paper Mario. Even though many worlds share the same basic concepts, the content itself makes them stand out. I loved Wonder and I can't wait to see where Nintendo goes next. It doesn't need to be Wonder 2, they could follow the same innovative route and create another completely new experience. With so many fresh ideas in Wonder, I'm sure some were scrapped but could return in future games. Wonder is still fairly fresh in my mind, so it could change at some point, but for now I'm going to put it at number 9. Number 8, Super Mario 3D World. Mario 3D World is stylistically similar to Super Mario 3D Land in that its levels are designed in a straightforward linear fashion, and it kind of plays like a 2D Mario game in a 3D space. However, while the game can feel more restrictive and less inventive compared to other 3D Mario titles, it proves that a commitment to linear level design can still yield fantastic results. It improved upon nearly every aspect of 3D Land and added a wealth of new concepts, including new enemy types, level hazards, and platforming challenges, especially when compared to 3D Land. The boss fights are phenomenal, more intricate, and more unique, and the game also features a much more memorable soundtrack than 3D Land with a jazzy style that helps 3D World carve out its own identity in the Mario franchise. This is actually one of my favorite soundtracks in a video game just in general. It's not quite Galaxy level, but I loved this. And then in addition to the regular levels, there's the Captain Toad levels, which were super fun and even got its own game. I didn't actually appreciate Super Mario 3D World as much when I first played it because I like the Galaxy games more, but this was trying to be something else. Galaxy was a single player experience, unless you want to count the really light 2-player mode, but this just felt like what New Super Mario Bros. Wii did for 2D Mario games, but for 3D. It was just so fun to be able to play this with friends as we try to collect stamps and find the hidden Luigis. This is really an underrated game, and I'm glad that people have a chance to play it on Switch. It also does play a lot better on Switch as you just move faster, so if you haven't played it yet, definitely get that version. Number 7, Super Mario Sunshine. Mario Sunshine is one of the more divisive entries in the Mario series, especially after its re-release in the 3D All-Stars collection. Admittedly, it's not as polished as most other mainline Mario games. There's some occasional clunky movement physics and glitches, and certain level sections can feel unfairly difficult. That said, Mario's movement, while sometimes a bit too quick, is incredibly fun and satisfying. The combination of FLUDD and the new movement options, like the ability to slide on wet surfaces, turns Isle Delfino and its areas into playgrounds for Mario to explore. The game brings back the open sandbox-style gameplay from Mario 64, and while certain challenges can feel too difficult or unpolished, the level design is still stellar. The worlds are a blast to jump, hover, and slide through, and there's many memorable locations. What makes Mario Sunshine stand out is its unique theme. It's a unified tropical atmosphere that has new characters, NPCs, plus an entirely new moveset thanks to FLUDD. The game also took great advantage of the GameCube controller's analog triggers, giving players full control over the FLUDD device. And then also let's talk about the story for a little bit. It's nothing crazy. I think Mario Galaxy has a better story. It's just ridiculous with the voice acting in this, especially Bowser's lines in this game. If you haven't played this or just want a reminder, just look up some of the cutscenes from this game, especially at the end.
I wanna fight that Mario again.
That's my boy. Well put, son. The Royal Koopa line is as strong as ever. But for now, let's just rest a while.
Number 6, Super Mario Bros. 3. Mario Bros. 3 stands as my second favorite 2D Mario game, only behind the next entry on this list. It's inventive, unique, and incredibly appealing, both in its visuals and music, and that's saying something for an NES game. It offers phenomenal level design, tight controls, and a fantastic variety of power-ups. It also revolutionized the series by introducing the world map, which replaced a series of disconnected levels from prior games. This map made the worlds feel more cohesive and allowed for more player agency, like letting you bypass certain levels, visit toad houses, and play mini-games to earn extra power-ups. The game also introduced the item inventory, inventory, allowing players to store items gained through toad houses and minigames for use between levels. This gave players the opportunity to strategize before tackling more challenging levels. The levels here were just plain fun. There was just so much variety in this, and this was just 2 games after Super Mario Bros., which looks like was on a different console. Number 5, Super Mario World. My all-time favorite 2D Mario game, Super Mario World takes everything that made Super Mario Bros. 3 great and builds on it, while also introducing a wealth of new features, enemies, and gameplay elements. One of the standout improvements is the world map, which is now fully connected and cohesive, replacing the more segmented maps of Super Mario Bros. 3. The item storage system was also reworked. Instead of selecting from a list between levels, you could store one extra item within a level that you could activate at any time. While limiting the number of items you could store to 1, this change streamlined the system and allowed players to have a backup item on hand. The level design is fantastic, with longer, more intricate levels packed with secrets. There's more exploration than before, with multiple secret exits leading to hidden levels and shortcuts. And of course, Super Mario World introduced Yoshi, Mario's companion, who not only added new platforming mechanics, but also gave players a fresh way to tackle enemies, and of course is still a fan favorite all these years later and has who knows how many games of his own. I also want to talk about the graphics, because even though this game came out over 30 years ago, it just still looks amazing. Like, the sprite work in this game is just top notch. I think this is also one of the best world maps we've ever seen in a Mario game. A lot of the new Super Mario Bros. Games, like the world map, just feels pretty stale. There's not much to do on it. But you can tell Nintendo really went the extra mile on here. Number 4, Super Mario 64. Super Mario 64 was the groundbreaking title that launched the 3D Mario games and laid the groundwork for many great titles that followed. Despite its very clearly dated visuals, which still hold a certain charm for many, including me, occasional clunky physics, and an often frustrating camera system, this game has aged surprisingly well overall. Its level design remains excellent, featuring large open areas that perfectly balance exploration and 3D platforming sequences. The controls, while not perfect, are good enough, and there's something immensely satisfying about building momentum with the long jump and dive. The music is fantastic, the environments are varied and memorable, and Peach's Castle is one of the best hub worlds in Mario history, if not the best. Discovering secret worlds and unlocking new areas of the castle is thrilling, and even if you played through the game dozens of times and know all the secrets, Mario 64 still holds up. I think 64 and the next game are incredibly close, and while I think the next game is more polished, I still find 64 to be more enjoyable in some ways. The sense of accomplishment from collecting a star in 64 is just far more rewarding than, for example, gathering a moon in Odyssey. 64 is also the more difficult game. I also want to talk about the DS version for a minute, even though I'm not ranking remakes. It's worth mentioning that Super Mario 64 DS adds a lot of content, including 3 new playable characters in Yoshi, Luigi, and Wario, and 30 new stars. And yeah, you could argue this isn't that big of a difference, but it's still something cool. The big flaw, however, in this is the control scheme. The original 64 famously used the analog stick, but the DS lacked this feature, which is quite noticeable today. Whether you prefer the original 64 or its DS counterpart, one thing is clear: a switch to a version of Super Mario 64 with updated visuals and new creative uses for the additional characters would be fantastic, as both versions now feel dated. And yeah, I know a lot of people hate quote-unquote remake culture, but as long as it doesn't take from making a new Mario game, I would be all for it. Number 3, Super Mario Odyssey. I've done Mario rankings in the past, and I actually ranked Super Mario 64 higher than Odyssey a few years ago, but since then my opinion has changed. This game came out of nowhere, which at this point shouldn't be surprising when it comes to Nintendo. Like many other Mario fans, I wasn't expecting a new sandbox Mario game with huge areas and lots of environments for exploration anytime soon, if ever. But the formula for 3D Mario had been trending in a more linear direction with 3D Land and then 3D World, and they still had some levels that were designed fantastically, and they were still successful. But that said, Odyssey demonstrates just how incredible the sandbox style can be. It boasts masterful world design, expansive explorable areas, tons of unique enemies, NPCs, and locales, along with a highly satisfying movement system. People are still doing challenges in this 8 years later. Mario just controls incredibly smoothly, and thanks to his new companion Cappy, his moveset is expanded to offer more options than ever. This game is immediately accessible and intuitive, but for those who dive deeper, it allows for a lot of sequences and creative platforming challenges. The number of moons to collect is ridiculous, but the game balances this by making moons generally quicker to find than stars from previous Mario titles. Plus, unlike older games where you'd return to the hub world after collecting a star, Odyssey lets you continue your adventure exactly where you left off. There's so much to do in this game, and while the base game is pretty easy aside from Darker Side, the fan-made challenges help balance it out. Odyssey is one of the most memorable Mario experiences we've ever gotten, and now that nostalgia has set in since my first playthrough, it's earned its place at number 3 on my list. Now, I know we got Donkey Kong Bananza, which is made by the Odyssey team, and it's basically Donkey Kong Odyssey, but but I really want another Mario game hopefully next year. Because yeah, I know there's Bowser's Fury, which isn't that old, but it's not a full Mario adventure. And number 2, Super Mario Galaxy 2. Here we are at the top 2. At this point, you've probably guessed what they are. It's a close call between these two, but Mario Galaxy 2 claims the runner-up spot. It improved upon so much of what made the first Galaxy game great, and made better use of the Wii Remote's IR pointer. Controlling Yoshi, one of the key additions to this game, felt incredibly smooth and satisfying. Aiming his tongue using the pointer worked surprisingly well, and the platforming challenges that made use of this ability and the new Yoshi power-ups were a blast. Galaxy 2 is often hailed as a masterclass in level design, featuring some truly exciting platforming sequences with a perfect blend of challenge and intuitiveness. That said, I placed it below the original Mario Galaxy because of its more linear design choices. While the first Galaxy struck a great balance between linearity and openness, Galaxy 2 leans more heavily into linearity. The hub world of the Comet Observatory is replaced by the much smaller Starship Mario, and instead of the large domes that connected the observatory to the levels, Galaxy 2 uses a simple world map. The levels themselves are more linear too, with fewer open areas. Some might argue the streamlining improved the game, but I found it made the experience less immersive. That said, Super Mario Galaxy 2 is still a phenomenal game, making brilliant use of the gravity shifting mechanic from the first title. It featured memorable levels, new power-ups, stunning graphics that still look amazing even 15 years later, one of the best soundtracks in gaming history, and some of the most impressive uses of the Wii's controls and hardware. Now, Nintendo, why haven't we gotten this re-released? Except on the Wii U eShop, but this was not included in the Mario 3D's All-Star Collection. And at number 1, we have Super Mario Galaxy. Mario Galaxy isn't just the best Mario game, it's one of the best games ever made, and it's one of my all-time favorites, if not my favorite game of all time. From the first moment you launch into space, you feel like you're playing something truly special. It took the tried and true formula of 3D Mario and completely reinvented it, introducing gravity mechanics that have become iconic and revolutionary for platformers. The world design is spectacular, with gravity-defying platforms, spherical worlds, and a level of creativity that was simply unheard of at the time. I gotta talk more about the gravity mechanic because it's just a stroke of genius. It allows for dynamic and unique level design that felt fresh, engaging, and challenging in ways previous 3D Mario games hadn't. The game introduces Rosalina, who has since become a fan favorite, and gave this game more emotional depth than really any Mario game had before. And the music, it's nothing short of breathtaking. The Super Mario Galaxy soundtrack is widely regarded as one of the best in video game history, if not the best. There's orchestral pieces that elevate the game's otherworldly charm, and each track fits perfectly with the atmosphere of the levels, just creates a truly immersive experience that pulls you deeper into the galaxy. And the hub world, the Comet Observatory, it's just another brilliant design choice. It's less of a static menu and more of a living, breathing environment that you explore while unlocking new secrets and galaxies. In terms of gameplay, Galaxy combines the tight controls, clever platforming, and fantastic sense of progression. Each level offers a fresh twist on the platformer, whether it's shifting gravity, rotating platforms, new power-ups. The difficulty curve is well balanced, it's challenging yet fair, and the final challenges are incredibly rewarding. It's a game that blends the feeling of exploration with the precision of platforming, all while telling a surprisingly emotional story of growth, adventure, and discovery. This is really the last time we got a real story in a 3D Mario game. And yeah, I know other games have had stories, but it's just so light. Like, this game actually tried to have a story. For me, Super Mario Galaxy is the pinnacle of the series. It just brought everything I loved about Mario, like innovative mechanics, fun platforming, a captivating world, and a sense of wonder, and wrapped it all in a truly unforgettable package. This was one of the first games I played on Wii. I checked my playlog on the Wii. I played it all the way back in August of 2008, I believe. And for 17 years now, it's just been one of my favorite games of all time. It's just a masterpiece, and I don't know how another Mario game is going to top this, but I'd love to see Nintendo try because they have been close a few times. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Do you love the Galaxy games? Do you love something else? Are you getting your pitchforks and torches ready to defend a game I ranked too low? Either way, let me know in the comments. But just keep it respectful to other commenters because everyone has their own opinions on different games. And this is all something that's just about fun. It's just whatever video games you like. It's nothing too serious. We all enjoy games differently, and that's part of what makes gaming great. And if you did enjoy this video, be sure to check out my other content. I've ranked Mario RPGs before. I've ranked Mario opening levels. I have videos on nostalgic games. I have a Pikmin documentary, so be sure to check that out if that sounds interesting. Also join my Discord if you're looking to interact with the community. Lastly, please subscribe, like, and share it with someone who might enjoy it, as it really helps a lot. Thank you for watching Domainy, and I'll see you next time.